Hello, everybody. Oh, I've got an echo. I think that's only for me, though. There we go. Hello, 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 hi. How's it going? Welcome to the Summer of Gaming. Switch a few things around here. Put this in my headphones. Okay. How is this? Can y'all hear me? How do I sound compared to the music? Are we good? Are we good on the levels? Ever since changing my audio setup, it's really hard to tell. Hognos, thank you so much for gifting those 2 subs to the community. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Good on the levels? Heck yes. Okay. Hello, welcome to a Surprise Friday stream. Once again, you found me bored during the middle of the day. I got all of my administrative stuff done, which is usually what I like to get done on a Friday. Make sure to clear out all my emails. But then I was kind of just sitting on my hands. So I thought, you know what? I want to get a start on this 3rd print because I am very excited about the last 2 that we did. Internet seems to like them just fine. So I want to get right on in there. Draw me a little Zelda. I'm going to open up Me Program now. Yes, the prints will be... You will definitely know when the prints are available. I will be insufferable about it. Mostly because I feel like whenever you release a thing on the internet, it's very easy to miss. But I'll be sure to be very clear about where you can get my prints when they are ready. They're going to be huge. The resolution on these is enormous. So I'm hoping to be able to finally give people the poster-sized artwork that they would like to get from me, because it's something I have never really offered outside of a few large original paintings. Okay, so... Hello, Alice Harper. Yes, I do need to do that, but more importantly, Lion, you need to remind me to do that when the time comes. If I can count on you. As many of you know, I have a notoriously bad memory. So when I release my prints, if you could just poke me and go like, hey, add a command, dummy, then I'll do that. Because that is very smart. I need a merch command in general, I think. I'll figure out some stuff. I want to release some things over the next little while. But for summer, my big plan, the Print series. So I'm going to have, this is like the first wave where I'll have the 3 huge Zelda prints, but then I'm also going to do some original painting prints and things like that, where I do some large format paintings and scan them in extra big. Hachi, I'm glad you're here. Because I didn't. I will set my stretch timer now, and we will be having stretches every 30 minutes just to keep ourselves safe while we sit at the desk. Especially when I do digital, I tend to hunch a lot. I feel like many digital artists can relate to that. That's true, I do have the other store command, and in my store I'll probably find a way, it's probably pretty easy on Squarespace, not sponsored, to just put a link in the store section of my site. Yeah, I tend to hunch really bad when I'm working at the Cintiq. I know. It's weird. I'm still unsure if I want to incorporate Fridays into my rotation because generally speaking, as I was saying a little bit earlier, Fridays what I like to do is do all of my admin. I like to take care of all my business stuff and then pretty much just take it easy for most of the rest of the day if I don't have any pressing deadlines. So I can't commit 100% to a stream every Friday, but I was just really bored after finishing all my work today. So I thought, you know what? Let's get on this new Zelda piece. So in just a second, I will get the screen going. Just need to open up our file. Now, which one are we going to be working on here? As usual, if you're new, !Discord in the chat if you would like to join the Discord. I'll be posting my reference image for the painting. I'll be putting it in there. Pluto, thank you so much for gifting that sub. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's fun to have off days just so I can have the option to be like, I'm bored, I'm just going to stream today. Pluto, again, thank you. So kind. Sweet. Thank you for welcoming these people into our community. Enjoy your bears, those of you who just got subs. Okay, so I've got some clip. I've got illustration. This must be it here. I'm going to open this up just to make sure. The reason why I don't like to switch over before I get my Photoshop files open is because I have a non-disclosure agreement work that I've been doing. And so if it showed up, excuse me, on the main page when I'm trying to open files, that would be bad for my career. So I just need to make sure that I get everything open here. Will I ship the prints internationally? Absolutely I will, yes. When the prints go up, it will be worldwide. I guarantee it. Okay, so we've got illustration. Now I can delete all these layers and save as. All very boring stuff. Okay, so I've got my fresh file. There's nothing in it. Now, if I switch over to the traditional, it'll be... Oh, Pluto, thank you again for gifting to Noodle Doodle. Very nice, very nice. Traditional art. Oh, yeah, it's going to show my camera, but the camera is literally pointing directly at the monitor, so you won't actually be able to see anything. But I'll turn that off, and I'll turn this. And there we go. Me Photoshop file. Lovely. Okay, so. I wish you luck, Lux, with that code. Okay, we're working on a tall one today. I'm very fascinated by this this orientation of illustration. I haven't done a lot of tall illustrations like this. So, but I had such a good time doing that really tall tree one before. So I'm going to open up my reference. My main reference is going to be on the Discord. So actually, I'll put it in there first, in the art references section on our Discord server. Art references. Where? A while back now. I gotta get back outside and take some more photo references. There it is. Okay. And boop. Perfect. All right, so now in the photo reference section, For those who don't know, and maybe don't have Discord Nitro yet, Epic Games right now in their launcher has a deal where if you've never had Discord Nitro, which is basically just the Discord thing that lets you use animated emojis and stuff, they have like a 3-month trial offer on right now for free, which is nice. I say that only specifically because in my server, I just started adding animated emotes. And one, you can see the rotating bear up at the top of your screen right now on the stream. That's one of the emotes that you can actually use in the Discord server, which is very fun. Okay, I'm opening up this art reference. Should also probably make a little tweet to let people know that I'm doing this shocking and surprising stream. Yeah, definitely good chill vibes to those who are on that work tip. Tweeted. Usually I'm like, nah, I don't really need to do an announcement thing on Twitter, but today, since we're doing a surprise stream, it's probably warranted. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so for those who weren't here last time, that we sort of, I very generally went over what I wanted to do for the third one. It's this sort of down angle, close shot of a tree trunk, and then some nice sort of dappled light in the distance. And I'll start very generally sketching as I talk here. So in the foreground, we have this tree trunk. I do kind of like it being offset to the side a little bit. And then in the back, we have this fallen log. And then the sunlight dappling across the surface of it. There's so many trees up above. And in the foreground, I want to really sort of push the perspective on this one. In the foreground, I wanted to have a Minish Cap Link. So in Minish Cap, you become a tiny, teeny, weeny little Link. And so I wanted to have a little Link standing like down here. Basically the same size as the figures that I've had in the previous two illustrations, which is to say the main focus of the illustration is the backgrounds, the landscapes, and then I have Zelda characters sort of peppered very lightly within. But the main focus here will definitely be these shapes, these shadows, these forms on the log in the background, and also these beautiful plants sort of growing up and over and around. I don't know how many folks will actually be stopping by today. I know there's a lot of games things going on right now. I myself am getting very excited for a lot of the announcements and events that are coming up. A lot of the big stuff that I'm really looking forward to is more next week, because Nintendo has their big conference on Tuesday, and I'm always very excited to see what Nintendo has to bring to the table. Holding out hope that they're going to say something about Breath of the Wild 2. I don't think we're going to get a release date necessarily, but I would love to hear them say anything. Even if it's just like, we're still working on it. I know they kind of did that when they had the 35 anniversary. I know that Aonuma was like, we're still working on it, we promise. But it would just be fun to hear them say a couple of other things. Maybe show a background or two, something like that. I know they did very similar stuff for the original Breath of the Wild, like a year or so before its release. Sort of showing some background imagery and a little bit more of that Hyrule. I mean, sure, in a perfect world, that's what it's going to be, but I don't think they would just drop it like that. There's going to be a lot of fanfare when Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. A lot of fanfare. That's going to be a system seller for sure. Which is why a lot of people are speculating that it'll be for like a Switch Pro kind of thing. So we've got a lot of, a lot of little foliage here. At the start of the stream, I'm always a little frog-throated because I realize I haven't actually talked a lot during the course of the day until the stream. I spend most of my morning just silently going through paperwork and boring stuff and not actually saying anything to anyone for a while. So this, I actually need to make sure that it's the right size. Yeah, so we're working at 3000 by 5333 at 300 resolution currently. You would think that it would. I think I saw an article recently that the Switch surpassed the PS2 finally. And the PS2, I mean, if you know about the PS2, ridiculous. Everyone had a PS2. It was just everywhere. I definitely didn't have a PS2 when they first came out. I didn't have a PS2 until, I think it was just after I graduated high school, a little bit after that, which was already a few years after PS2 was out. And I bought one secondhand off of a buddy who I think was moving away or something. Well, thank you, Elena. I remember, I remember getting the PS2 specifically because I wanted to play Final Fantasy XI online. So I needed to buy the PS2 and also the hard drive. You had to get a whole hard drive for the back of the PS2, and it's slotted in the back. It was a very elaborate setup. I kind of want to push the perspective a little bit more. Maybe warp the perspective a bit. Change some of the planes of it. Right now I'm sticking pretty rigidly to just what I see in the original image. So if I free transform this, I can kind of squish it down and foreshorten it just a bit. So I want to almost make it seem like there's this sort of compositional thing in art where you have the sort of hero's perspective, which is the hero backlit So he is facing away from the camera and looking off into the grand horizon, right? Sort of the promise of adventure kind of thing. And I wanted that, but I wanted it on like a hilariously small scale. So Link is looking off into the distance, being like, I'm going to have a big adventure out here, but he's on a tree stump. He's just like, it's very like low stakes kind of thing, which I'm just very captivated by that idea. I think it's very cute. I can then push some of the curve of this tree. Trying to get some of these surface details, these little cracks in the tree stump, give it a bit more personality. Had a very weird pandemic moment today. In the mail, I received tickets to a concert that I had originally bought a long time ago, like well over a year ago. It was before the pandemic. It was before any of this COVID stuff happened. And I had pre-ordered tickets for the Final Fantasy VII reunion. It was the remake reunion concert in Chicago. And I was so excited. And then immediately after I got them, pretty much, it was when the pandemic happened. And they, canceled the show, of course. They postponed it. And they postponed it until September of this year. And so as the date was steadily approaching, I had been thinking about like, first of all, I can't travel right now because the border between Canada and America is like very tight. And there's no way that I would, try to risk anyone's life to go to a Final Fantasy concert in America. So I was like, I might just not go. But then it was looking more and more, I've got the vaccine. It's looking more and more like maybe travel restrictions will ease up and it'll be okay in September. And then today in the mail, they sent the tickets, and the tickets were like accompanied by this letter that said, actually, we're delaying it again. And I was like, okay. They're delaying it till February of next year. To which I was like, no, I don't want to fly to the Midwest in February. That sounds like a nightmare. I've had very bad travel experiences flying into Chicago in the winter, so I was like, no, thank you. So I am getting a refund, and I was kind of bummed because, it had been so long at this point. I had really been looking forward to finally going to this concert. But yeah, instead I was like, no, I'll just take the refund. Yeah, winter traveling is very bad. I've had some horrific experiences, nightmare stuff, truly, truly bad. Never want to repeat that ever again. But also, it's a concert, not the end of the world at all. So I don't feel too bad about it, but it was weird being reminded of a thing that I had technically purchased before any of this started. It felt like it was from another life. Oh, hey, Abby, how's it going? Well, right now I'm drawing a tree stump, so that's the beauty that I'm currently working on. And I'm going to put a little guy down here on the tree stump, and he's going to be looking out over some grass and light and beautiful leaves. I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to make these into prints also. It's been just so long since I've done prints. My little emotes. The bear uwu one with the two hands pointing in, thanks in complete part to the folks on Discord. My Discord comes up with all the best memes, now and forever, and I merely follow their lead. I happily oblige and draw little pictures for them. When I make prints specifically for the ones I'm making now, it definitely depends quite a bit on what you need, what your requirements are for whatever printing service. Me currently, 300 DPI and RGB. Not messing with CMYK, not messing with anything higher than 300, because for the most part, you don't need to. I know that's very controversial to say. Very, very controversial to say. But in my experience, it has not been a necessary thing. I remember back when I first started doing work, and I was doing work for print media, and people got militant about the highness of your DPI, and it never made a difference. Unless you are painting a billboard that's going on the side of a building, it doesn't matter. Especially if you're making something that's going to be like a book or a pamphlet or a zine, you don't have to go above 300. You barely have to go above 200, honestly. The people would be like 1200 DPI, like minimum, or else. And they would get so intense about it. And it's like, I know that you read this in a book, but like, it doesn't actually matter if you print it out. Like, just test it yourself. It really doesn't matter. Abby, listen, I have passions and they're all dumb. I love, in the original reference image, the photograph that I had taken, I love the leaves specifically down here. They're so saturated, even though they're shadowed. And I love that, the diffuse light of the sun, because skylight bounces off every damn thing. I actually watched a really good video about this recently for artwork creation, talking about how when you're painting diffused light from the sky, it strikes a surface and then it carries whatever color it hits with it to the next surface. And then it repeats that pattern over and over and over until it's fully diminished. Because every time it hits a surface, that light scatters. So it brings with it the color, but it also loses luminosity and like speed. So it brings blue with it, and that's really important for when you're doing undershadows, if you're painting things that are like daylight. Subjects lit in the day, I should say. Because they'll have that blue underneath them. Or if they're bouncing off of something, like say you're standing on a really, really bright red surface for whatever reason. You're on the red carpet, I guess. And it's really bright sunlight. If you're painting a close-up and you're being underlit by that bright skylight, red will reflect up onto you, onto like whatever you're wearing or whatever, which is really interesting and cool. In my opinion. So we've got lots of foliage here. It sort of carries on and continues back into the background. But you don't want to get too bogged down. Well, I don't want to get too bogged down in those little dips and bips back here. And I want most of the detail to just fade into the shapes of paint kind of melting together. We're going to do a lot of blending, especially back here, where there technically are shadows, but it's a lot of illuminated shadows. So very close in value. And I think it's going to give it a very like glowing, bright, sunshiny feel, which is exactly what I'm going for. So then we're going to go down right here. So we have the artist formerly known as Link down here, and he's looked better. It kind of looks like the Grimace right now, or a chicken nugget maybe, sort of a blobbo. So I'm going to just erase this because basically this space, I always do this too. when I want to place a character in, I just put a circle or an oval or a bean for scale. So if I was gonna like put a character in the background here, I'd go like this, and I would know that this is kind of their personal bubble and the space that they would take up in the composition, which is very important, especially if you're drawing, and heavens forfend, if you're drawing a lot of characters in your scene. You're gonna need to know their relative heights and maybe how they're interacting. And you can very loosely represent that with just these little personal space bubbles. So I'm going to just take down the opacity of the lines. And now we're going to go in and actually draw our little friend. And we're not going to draw like a final line version. We're just going to draw a sketch, a little sketch. So once again, I need to define the broader shapes. So it's going to be big old melon head. And this part is key because now I have to start thinking about what's the pose going to be like? How am I going to offset him against the background? Where are the lights and the darks? Well, I know, for instance, and if you look in the reference, this part of the log right here, like kind of all of this, more or less, is light grays, light bluish grays, because again, skylight, even though the stuff is in the shadow, that skylight's bouncing. So we've got this sort of lighter area, and then the log top itself, the stump, I guess I should say, is a darker gray against that light gray surface. So I know that if I put bright colors in here, that they're gonna pop extremely hard. And sometimes that's good, sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. But I also know that since this area appears lighter, if I put darker colors or shapes up here, then they'll also be contrasty. So with that in mind, we can actually really make Link pop if we sort of figure out where we want to put the light and the dark in this picture. So up here, we can have, what was the hat's name in Minish Cap? Does anyone remember what the hat's name in Minish Cap was? Was it Enzo? Elzo? It was something like that. I think it started with an E. But if I have them up here, kind of being like, brr, they have like a big bird beak. Kind of like looking off here. And just knowing that if I have them in shadow against that light log color. Elzo, thank you. So if I have them in shadow, then I know that they'll be good against that lighter... Oh, Eslo. If I have them in shadow, they'll be good against that lighter color. Whereas down here, I kind of want a pop of light color, which Link doesn't necessarily really have in the shadows. But I can plan, because, okay, if you look in the background here, you can see I've sort of just generally sketched in these sort of sun dots, the dappled light that's coming down through the trees. And if you look in the original reference image on the Discord, that doesn't really exist down on the stump. This is where the power of art comes in, my friends, because we can add our own if we'd like to, and I would. So I can have just like a dapple of sunlight. Maybe like this. Oh, got ourselves our first stretch break. We'll continue this symposium after we take a stretch. I'm gonna reset that and... Stretchity, stretchity. Hi, Jenga. How's it going? Okay, let's show at So now down here where we've got this sunlight hitting, I know that in the original image, if I take a look at that again, the sunlight is coming down from, it was kind of mid-late afternoon, so it's kind of coming down almost to the side from here. And so it's splashing. You can almost feel the particles of light, especially with how dense the air looks at the top of this picture. It's kind of cresting down, you know, like a big wave, right? And it's hitting against the side of the tree and splashing and spilling up over. So with that in mind, we can imagine such a world where there isn't complete tree coverage over here, and we've got another just particle of light coming through and maybe hitting Link like this. So like this side is lit, and then this side's in shadow. And when I sketch like this, I very rarely think about the individual components of a character, and I more think about just like the big chunky shapes. Anything that feels appealing, right? It's anything that sort of services the silhouette of the overall picture. And when it comes to Tiny Link, that I guess equates to really, really chunky boots, which I'm cool with. And then I've got the shield on the back, so I'm gonna just erase this to kind of tidy up that space here. And then the sword going across this way. And you gotta remember to keep the sword hilt on this side because Link is left-handed, so he would reach up like that. Grab his sword. I forget what other tools you get in your kit during that game, but I would like to draw Link, like when I eventually flesh out the details, I want to draw Link with more of the items that you get throughout the course of the game. Now I'll just sort of shore up where I would like Eslo. Now we'll look in the overall composition and see if it's where we like it. Now, since I'm kind of putting the composition over to one side like this, I'm going to split this up and move Link. I can move Link and the entire like Sunbeam situation, great band name, and sort of shift him over this away and have it feel more like an adventurous composition, because then the whole thing kind of flows like this, which is very heroic. It's a rising action. We're going to put a lot of focus on the character in the bottom, but then this dark shape leads into a light shape surrounded by darker shapes. So this whole thing basically acts like an eye funnel, which is a terrifying sounding thing that I just said. But I just mean that the value in the shape, it's going to make your eye go up toward the light. So it'll be a very appealing composition of a rising action. Feels heroic, feels cool. Oh, I do love the mole mitts. I had a really good... It's actually one of those things where you work on an illustration for a really, really long time, and then you, like, you know, it crashes and you lose all the stuff because you didn't save. And that was a case that I had when I worked on a really fun multi-part, like multi-panel Minish Cap illustration. Years and years and years ago, back when probably when the game first came out, I was doing a series of illustrations on DeviantArt called the Boss, I think I called it the Boss Rush series, where it was basically a bunch of panels outlining each boss fight in a game, and it was mostly Zelda. And I had done all of the bosses from this game, the Minish Cap, and then I like lost all my work. And so there's bits and pieces of it that still exist, but the final version sadly was lost. I think that was the one for this game. Maybe it was Ocarina of Time, now that I think about it. I definitely lost one of them, though. It was very sad. You know, one of the first times I actually live streamed, I was working on the Minish Cap illustrations. I remember that because specifically I remember the mole mitts. I was working on the mole mitt section. I had streamed on YouTube. It was like my original YouTube channel years ago. Maybe 400, 500,000 years ago at this point. It was ancient history. All right, so we've got our sketch. The sketch is now sketched. So I'm going to merge my two sketches together. So I'll get rid of the little portion here where I sketched in where Link was going to go. And then I'll remove these demonstration arrows. Bring this back to full opacity and then merge the two sketches together. I definitely did an Animal Crossing stream. I did a Halloween. It was the Halloween event on GameCube Animal Crossing. I still remember digging out my Animal Crossing CD. No, I bought a new one on eBay because I couldn't find mine, and then after the stream I found it because Murphy's Law. Okay, so that one wasn't too long ago. That might have been like 2018-ish? A long time ago, I guess now. 4 years-ish. Now we're switching over to our paintbrushes, because we're going to lay down some color. It's about time, because it's almost an hour into drawing this. But I've also been doing a lot of blabbing. Yeah, it was definitely, because when I did the Animal Crossing stream, that was way more when I was like trying to do Let's Plays. So I did the full playthrough of Thousand Year Door, and what else did I do? I think I completed at least 2 games. Oh, Super Mario RPG. I did both of those all the way through. And then I was starting Chrono Trigger, but I didn't make it all the way through that one. I'm still proud of those Let's Plays. I mean, it's very... I can't sit through them because that's just the nature of going through things that you've said and done in the past, and it all seems cringy. But I am still proud of them. I'm glad that I made it all the way through a video game on a Let's Play series. Twice. I feel like the cringiest part of that Let's Play was when I got to the Pianta Mafia section and I tried to do a real tough guy, like New York, New Jersey accent. 'Cause I remember feeling cringy at the time. But these are the things one must do. It'd be weird if I didn't think that my past self was cringy, though. Cringiness is the fuel that propels forward the you of the future, you know? You can put that on a t-shirt. Tell you what. I also just realized my Photoshop window was like going over the background image. All right, so I've got my background ref, I've got my color refs that I'm pulling in now. Some very general stuff. I'm gonna try to get some nice Ghibli greens going here. And then I've got an additional photo that I took on that day that I would like to use for plant reference. Okay, these are good refs. I'm mostly excited for just how darn big these are gonna be. Just big. Thank you so much for all the follows, by the way. We're really cracking on through that June follower goal. Very excited about that. We are nearly halfway through that goal. Now I want to put some big splashy colors in. I want the background to just be fully splashed out. So let's get a huge brush and let's make it an airbrush for that softness. Down here we're going to do transfer. I'm going to turn off shape dynamics because I'm brave and I can. Okay, here we go. So the first thing I want to do is just fill generally with a light green. No problemo. Then up here, just going to start dropping in unbelievably light splashes of color. A little bit of this and that, a little bit of here and there, you know? And then as we get further down into the dark areas, I want to... First I'll build out the darkest area, which is going to be down here, right next to the tree stump. And then we'll make it gradually lighter as it moves off. It's important to get these nebulous airbrush sections done first so that we can build our finer layers on top of that. Because you need both. You need the contrast between smooth and hard lines and shapes. I want it to feel like it's glowing. I want it to feel like summertime. I need this area specifically to be very dark. And of course, we want to build those dark areas against the light areas. So we'll be doing the sort of background pass with the airbrush, but then we're going to be going in with the light areas of the tree stump itself. A little bit after that. And the area up through here is almost completely shadowed, but I don't want to color it in with the darkest color like I do further down the image, because the further away, the more diffuse the light is. And I want it to feel glowing and bright. And I'm working in a slightly smaller airbrush, trying to bring in some of those other details. Like down in here where I actually want some of the ground to be peeking through. Okay, that's a pretty good color for the tree. So for the tree, we want a nice bright counterpoint. And I can actually move to my regular paintbrush for this. So that I can get that hard edge. I'll be filling this in with a lot of other smaller colors. Smaller colors. I guess smaller shapes of color. I'm going to turn off transfer as well, just so we can get a nice 100% opacity on this shape. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm building the shape in, and then after the shape is built in, I'm going to lock the pixels so that I can paint on top of it without going outside the lines. And so I can use really, really broad strokes after that. And then above that, there's one more shape to do, which is the tree stump that Link is standing on. I'll do this one in the darkest color just so I can really build up those shadows. We'll be kind of working backwards on the stump. Good night, Lyra. See you next time. let's work on stump here. So just like for the background, we're going to be going back to the airbrush. And working in generally pretty medium-sized blocks. But I just want to sort of figure out where all the shadows live. My main goal right now. Building little homes for all these shadows. Thank you very so much, Joe Famo. I really appreciate that. I don't. I used to, whenever I did print stuff in the past, I would do CMYK. It depends a lot on what the client wants, but I know that for the printing services that I am looking at to go through for this, all of them accept RGB, and for me, that's just a much more natural way to work digitally, but also you don't really notice a lot of the differences in print unless you're going for something very specific. So to that end, I am staying in RGB for this. I'm going to try to hold on to as many of the high-key magentas and vibrant blues as I can. So back to my analogy earlier of the light hitting the tree, how it's lit, splashing up against it like it's actually a physical wave. It's a really nice way to visualize light at an angle. Light moving at a thing, especially a curved object like this. If you picture this as being a curved beach that goes down into water, and the water splashing up and hitting against it, and moving over the surface of it, bending down. There are parts on the other side that the water won't be able to reach until it fully falls, and then the parts up at the front, it's kind of like, moving like this. It's moving out in perspective. Thinking like that really helps me visualize how I want to dynamically light this thing. Night, Redbird. we've got a lot of hard edge shadows going across here. I'll be putting on with a bit of a firmer brush. For now, I'm just going to kind of lump them in here. And I also want to warm up the edges between the sort of more yellowish sections. Because the first tone that I put down is usually a mid-tone, like a light mid-tone. Now I'm putting in the warmer tones that are going to go up against the really, really, really bright ones. It's kind of like the last stop on the line. Put this warm light as sort of a halo around the lightest sections. And for that, I'm going to go back to paintbrush. I'm still going to keep those opacity dynamics on. But now I go in a bit more dynamic range, so really making them pop. And I'm going to remove the sketch now so that I can just really go in and push these things back and forth. Ooh, time for another stretch break. Let's go ahead and take a stretch. Hiya, Shamrock. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. I was very happy to reincorporate the stretching animation. I mean, I worked so hard on it. I'm not much of an animator, so when I get an opportunity... Good to celebrate the good ones. Ooh, that's a good idea, Lion. That can totally be one of them. Please remind me after the stream, and I'll like resize it so it's correct for the dimensions. But yes, absolutely. Every now and again, we'll take a look at it against the green background that we did here. Actually, I can just leave that on. Probably help my values a little bit more if I can measure it against what's eventually going to be there. Although I'm very excited to put a bunch of foliage on top of this green background because right now it feels very cosmic in a weird way. But as you may or may not know, I love drawing bark texture on trees. Sort of rendering them down together. There's always that underneath part, the part that's lit. And then above that, there are the sort of lines that separate those spaces. And if you have both of those, then that's basically rendered bark. Trying to keep a lot of that warm feeling in the log of this tree here. There's going to be a lot of cool color surrounding it. It's going to be a very blue and green kind of environment. I really want to keep an eye on those warmer colors. I've been thinking lately about, speaking of the conversation about Gumroads in the chat, about putting some stuff up on Gumroad lately. Both like art book stuff and also maybe some demo things. I had one of those weird, like bad brain getting in your own way kind of moments recently. I was just watching a, not motivational, but like a sort of an ideas video on YouTube, just like, you know, fun things you can do, like to sort of build audiences or to create products and things like that. And they were like, a lot of people are like really into doing courses and stuff if they have specialized knowledge or like their own kind of approach to doing a thing. And I, I literally sat there watching it and I was like, oh, sure, I would do it. Like if I had something that I could do. Like in that moment, I needed someone to walk up to me, slap my face and go like, my guy, you are an artist for a living. Literally, you have so many things that you could put up on there. Sadly, self-confidence is a tricky beast for a lot of us. So I'm trying to finally, you know, kind of get out of that headset and remember that I have quite a bit of things. Many, many, many things that I could actually put up. And I've been hoarding artwork for decades now. I mean, I have more than enough to make many books. Both public and private art. And goodness knows I love to do a painting demo. I was thinking the absolute coolest thing, and something that really excites me to think about, is that if I did that, I wouldn't be constrained to working in the studio. Like, I could film a plein air video, finally. Which I think would be really, really fun. If I could, like, take people on an adventure on the local trails and show how I approach painting on plein air and the tools I use, like sort of my limited setup, because I do plein air on a budget. So I think that would be really, really nice for folks, because it can be intimidating, I think, for a lot of people. You think they need some special tools or like a special tripods or whatever, but no, not the way I do it, at least. Very, very simple. I just have like a little like satchel bag, and then I just stuff a bunch of materials in there and find a bench or a picnic table. Love to work at a picnic table. The one ultra silver lining, and it's just a sliver of a silver lining of having all of the kind of restrictions and lockdown and sort of social etiquette that came along with the pandemic was definitely way less people approach me when I'm doing plein air now. So I don't have as much of the social anxiety of painting outside and then someone like rocking up and just standing over my shoulder and staring at what I'm doing the whole time, which is something that definitely used to happen when I did plein air before 2020. The thing is, I like it when people watch me work traditionally. But there's something about when I go plein air painting, I like to just connect with nature. And it's difficult to do when you can't just sort of zone out. Because I like to put on a podcast or like a YouTube video or something when I'm out there and just kind of zone a little bit. But if someone approaches me, you know, I go into kind of streamer mode. So I want to talk. I want to say like, you know, this is what I'm doing, you know. It's never usually that deep. But I like to at least explain what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and stuff like that if anyone asks. Occasionally, you know, you'll get someone coming up who is a painter themselves and they want to kind of understand your process and things like that, which I get. Okay, that's enough of the tree trunk for now. I really like what I've got so far with the tree trunk, but I want to focus on other areas of the painting just so I can keep it very harmonious. Because I find if you focus on one part for too long, you can kind of lose sight of what the original idea of the piece is. So before I start slapping on too many details over here, I'm going to go ahead and switch to a different thing. I'm going to do maybe the top of the log. And just very generally putting in the different planes of the log here. Keeping in mind the circular shape. The thing I really liked about when James Gurney was talking about like setting up a kit for plein air, how he, if he didn't want to be bothered, he would wear a jumpsuit and a hat that said Department of Art, and then set up like street cones, and people just assumed that he was working for like the city or whatever. I find very, very funny. He was like, just do this if you're working and you don't want to be bothered. Yeah, whenever he does a painting like on near a street corner or something like that, I'm like, man, how are people not just accosting him constantly? I think it's really cute when he paints in the car while his wife is like doing grocery runs and stuff. He'll just sit there and like, you know, paint snow that's been piled up by a snow plow, or the entryway of the grocery market. Because he has that special easel that hangs over the top of the steering wheel of the car, which is really cool. Yeah, his Gumroad stuff is very good. I have all of his videos about plein air specifically, but also his black and white and oils technique tutorials. Very good. Especially because they cover a lot of art kind of essentials. You don't have to have oil paint in order to understand those videos. It's more about trying to create the effects of light and texture, which is really, really cool. Most definitely. The thing I always liked about the James Gurney stuff is just how accessible it is in terms of understanding it as a relative layman. Because for me, I don't come from art education. I never went to art school. I've never taken an art class. I don't understand a lot of art theory. I mean, I do now because I'm trying to teach myself. But for the most part, trying to come up from nothing other than basic intuition, knowing what I like, and trying to replicate things. It's really nice to have someone like James Gurney who really breaks it down into the easiest to understand ways of grappling with not only the ideas of art, but also just the medium itself. You know, how to set up a palette, how to keep the paints wet, that kind of stuff. It's very invaluable. And the vast majority of the stuff that I learned from, doing traditional painting and being sort of set on this path, almost all of it has improved my digital art as well. Mostly the speed at which I work. Because even if the tool ideas don't transfer over, a lot of the other stuff definitely does. In terms of just understanding a piece, breaking it down compositionally, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the confidence is the real boost for sure. So much of creating compelling artwork is doing what feels right, you know? And it's one of those fun paradoxes of how do you know what feels right if you don't understand what you're initially trying to get to? And I think that's where a lot of, certainly my frustration came from doing digital initially. Because I had a vague feeling of what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what I was looking for, even though in my mind and heart, I might have been this is what I want to do. But there's that middle, there's that transitional period from the heart to the mind to the hand that makes it so difficult to kind of grapple with. for another stretch. Oh. Thank you, Evie. It's always very fiddly adding in all of the little grass patches, but it's very satisfying once you start falling into that groove. Probably actually look up what Eslo looks like. That's a good thing I did, because I was drawing very off model. Okay. Let's try this again. Hello, Circle-Eyed. How's it going? Thank you very much. Right, I was gonna add some more of Link's items from this game into this composition. My favorite Zelda is Breath of the Wild, but before Breath of the Wild came out, the entire time before that pretty much was like Minish Cap. Minish Cap is still my favorite 2D Zelda game. For sure. Unsurprisingly, all of these images are very low resolution. Come on, game, help me out here. No. Welcome back, Lion. Trying to find a usable image of the items in this game. Yeah, I definitely think there's something redeeming in every Zelda game. Even the CDI ones are hilarious. That's their redeeming quality. But yeah, Skyward Sword, I think the gameplay is aged worse than all the others, but I like the story the best of all of the games, so that is, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest redeem of that one. And the music as well. Skyward Sword, the music is so good. Holy crow. Anyway, it's time for a quick stretch. Let's stand up and stretch it out. Wind Waker is incredible. Yeah, I'm very excited to re-explore Skyward Sword on the Switch. Because, well, first of all, I'm kind of hoping that they do some quality of life stuff like they did with Wind Waker. Because when they re-released Wind Waker, those who have played the original and the... what was it, Wii U? The Wii U version of Wind Waker? When they did that version, they did the amazing thing of shortening that final Triforce collecting quest, which was by far the most tedious part of that game. Everything else was like so snappy and good, and the story was kicking, and the music was good, and the traversal on the water was really fun. But then they shortened that quest, and they added the double speed sail, which was incredible. Oh, did I finally find a high-resolution image of the items? Yes, I did. Yay! Oh, speaking of inverted controls for a game that later they fixed, the Mario... Like, the main reason why I love the Mario 35th Anniversary Collection so much is because in Mario Sunshine, it had forced inversion on the camera controls for up, down, and left and right, which is, don't think I've ever seen that in another game where they force you to use that. And now it's like more like normal style control, which I love. Because I like playing that game, but I can't go back to the original GameCube version. I cannot. It's so bad. My head doesn't work in the inversion anymore. Oh, there's so many fun items in this game that I can put into this piece. So there's the split cape, which is like this. Which lets you do fun jumping and floating techniques. Yeah, well, the thing is, like, a lot of games have inversion, but they don't force you to use inversion. It's like an option. It's such a normal thing these days where it's like, do you want to change them? Of course. Or no. And you get the option. But in Mario Sunshine, it was like, if you don't like the way this plays, sorry. Now there's a mirror and there's the gloves. Now the gloves, I could put the gloves on maybe hanging off the back. That might be cute. I assume they're linked to the strap, like the sword strap. So I'm gonna have the mole gloves, which are maybe the cutest items in Zelda. Okay, the mole gloves are on. I'm going to have Link holding his arms out to the side a little bit, sort of, you know, posing heroically here. So that I can include a couple more items. So I'm going to have the cane over here. Actually, I'll put that on a new layer so it's easy to erase. The lines underneath. Go. The bow and arrow we can have across the back. Like this. Actually, this game has the mirror shield, so I can change out the Hylian for the mirror shield. And that'll solve that item. The mirror shield's just different in that it has kind of like a little top like that, and then a mirror inside. There's no way that I can do the big air jug that you get in that game, so I'll leave that one out. But I always really liked, I don't know if any of you remember this image, it was an illustration, I think, for the first Zelda game, where it was just Link holding all of his gear. So he had like the raft and the bow and potions and bombs and everything, just like holding all of it, which was really, really wild. Oh yeah, and the sprinting boots. Or like little winged Pegasus boots. I think that's pretty much all I can fit on here without making it look really cluttered, because at a certain point you still want to be able to read the silhouette as Link. So I'll just have it like that. I also need to lower this leg, because compositionally there is a perspective shift. There we go. And then I'll have just a little shadow connecting the two. And then we've got some nice clean Link lines. And so I can get rid of that sketch. Actually, no, wait. Yeah, the sketch has everything on it, so I'll just keep that around for now. But this will help a lot with the composition of the piece, because now I can actually color in Link and see how he looks in the overall comp. I'll grab my previous illustration. Desktop. Lork. Let's get to coloring. Kind of funny because there actually isn't a lot of green other than the hat and the tiny little bit down here of the bottom of the tunic that you can really see the green in Link's composition. Kind of strange. What's going on here? Oh, sample all layers. No, thank you. Wait, yes. Do sample all layers. What am I doing? Is there a gap in the line somewhere? Oh, of course there is, right here. Boom. Alright, so there is Eslo done. Do the beak. I'll do a slightly different color green for the eyelid. Maybe a little darker and a little bluer. In Link's hair. Oh yeah, I guess it's a little tricky to figure out the shadows, so we should do all the flat colors first and then maybe add a shadow layer on top, because we're going to be doing some interesting lighting, sort of half light, half shadow on Link for this composition. So I'm going to put down just the flat colors first, and then we'll figure it out from there. You can't see any of the sleeves, but you can see our gloves. Boots. And then from there, I need to do the local color on all the items. So for that, I'm just going to pull directly from the source. And then we're going to do some dynamic shadow on top with a coverage layer. So let's go in on the gloves. Boop, boop. Thanks for stopping by, Neon Ziggs. Well, actually, the Pegasus boots have different coloring than I've been using for the rest of my illustrations. Although I do like that pop of red more than the golden. But let's see how the overall thing sits before we do that final judgment. Then for the sword, there's a lot of pops of gold in the game art, in the actual sprite art of the game. Okay, and the bow and arrow had white ends and then that gold again. Okay. So that's all the flat color. And then on top of that, we can create a shadow layer. We'll go in with a nice dark blue, just to keep things kind of exciting. And then I figure out where I want the light to be cascading. I'm thinking kind of like, generally speaking, I want this in shadow. This. Then of course the light will curve underneath. Maybe not quite as extreme. But it'll go around rounded objects like this. And like this. Oops, I wasn't drawing those on the shadow layer. looks good for the shadows. And now, of course, I'll drop that down to a lower opacity and set that to multiply. And now we get way more of that sense of scale, where it's just like huge looking off into the distance and then tiny little Link down there at the bottom. Just a teeny tiny. Now, it'll make a lot more sense lighting-wise once I actually put lighting on the top of the stump here, which is something that I can go in and start working on now. We'll zoom back out again and return to our background folder. Switch this back to my dry media brush. Hey, CL, good morning. Time for a stretch. Well, thank you, CL. I don't think that's a boring question at all. My canvas size currently is 3000 by 5333 pixels. I'm working in a 16, well, I guess a 9 by 16 ratio. Because it's a tall boy. What it looks like all zoomed out. I'm trying to push a little bit more movement in the background, as well as some more kind of ethereal, not necessarily detailed grass back there. So it's not like hyper refined or anything like that. In fact, it's quite a bit blurrier than anything I have coming up toward the camera. I realized earlier that I was putting a bit too much emphasis on those distant details, the grass highlights and stuff, which I'm going to sort of take back a little bit of here. I still want that detail in the midground for sure. In fact, I need to amp up the detail a bit more in the midground, but in the background here, I want the same colors, but I don't want the same level of detail because it only serves to detract from the foreground. I want the foreground to be the star of the show. And I want the background to feel like, because remember earlier, to sort of the beginning opus of the idea, it's a heroic horizon. So looking out into the distance to endless possibilities. So it's not necessarily looking at specifics, but it's a feeling instead. You're sure of what's near you, but you're unsure of what's far away in the future. And I can still use the smaller shapes once I kind of put in some of these sort of larger blobs here. But I always want to keep the opacity low so that it kind of feels mist-like. But I want to push a lot of those values still, so I'm really going to be darkening up a lot of spaces over here. Thanks for stopping by, TL. I'll probably wrap up soon here in a little bit. This is a very, very ambitious composition, and it also requires a lot of fine detail, so I'll probably just keep working on it off stream. But this will be the third print in the series, and I'm very, very, very excited. Galapos, thank you so much for all them bits. I appreciate that. Thank you everybody for following and subscribing and gifting subs today. I do very much appreciate it, Lion. Thank you for the bits. I probably don't say it as often as I should, but the support on Twitch is, and has been for the last year or so, very important to my ongoing artistic survival. So I really, really, really do appreciate, all the support in all the forms, and the creation of the community as well, which has been just very good and very special to me. I have a lot of fun hanging out on the Discord. It's good vibes in a time when there's not always a lot of that going around. Thank you, Evie. I'm glad to hear it, Circle-Eyed. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for more art adventures. I'm not sure what I'll be doing. I might work on this one a bit more tomorrow, or just do something completely different. I'm not quite sure yet. But at the very least, it's going to be a chill, fun time. That's how we like to do it here. Okay, this is where we're going to stop for now. Thank you once again, everyone, for coming by for this impromptu Friday stream. I will see y'all tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Do take it easy until then. And farewell.